Hallo, herzlich willkommen zu unserem ersten How to Survive Talk, der leider nicht analog, sondern nur digital stattfinden wird. Ähm, Ich spreche heute auf Englisch mit Kōki Tanaka, einem Künstler aus Japan, aus Kyoto, von wo er aus zugeschaltet sein wird. Und wir sprechen mit ihm über seine Arbeit in der Ausstellung How to Survive, Kunst als Überlebensstrategie im Sprengel Museum Hannover und auch über die weiteren Konsequenzen der jetzigen Situation, also Covid-19, bei uns Corona genannt, und seiner Arbeit in der Vergangenheit. Er hat Japan auf der Biennale von Venedig 2013 vertreten. 2017 war er bei Skulpturprojekte Münster mit einer Arbeit präsent. Und er zeigt eben eine Arbeit in unserer Ausstellung. Und ich freue mich sehr auf das Gespräch mit ihm, was wir in der Folge ausstrahlen werden. Kōki Tanaka wird erst eine Präsentation zu seinen Arbeiten machen und wir steigen dann in ein Gespräch auf Englisch ein. Und ich wünsche dabei viel Freude.
Okay, I'm going to talk about abstraction and individual concreteness as a kind of like a short presentation at the very beginning of our conversation, which is referring to different the disaster moment. One is in Japan, and the other one is COVID-19 that we are facing right now. So, I'm going to now we're going back to the almost 10 years ago, 2011, March 11th, in Japan. This is the image I took almost 1 year later after the disaster in Japan, which was the people from outside called Fukushima, but in Japan we called March 11th. And the longer term we call the tsunami and earthquake and the nuclear disaster, or we also call in different way like great Tohoku earthquake and tsunami or something like that. So, but when the disaster happened, and it's and reported to the outside of the Japan, then because the nuclear disaster is much more impact than the maybe the tsunami afterwards, so people start to referring only the disaster as a Fukushima. So in a way, it's kind of like a abstracted from the concreteness of the disaster itself. So the image you are seeing right now is the place called Rikuzen Takada. This was the like a big city, and whole city was swept away by the tsunami. And even when you look at this building, it's like a 1, 2, 3, like four-story building, which is also devastated by tsunami. So you can imagine that how the tsunami was impact on that area. And this is the image from Tokyo, because when I see the disaster in Japan, I was in Los Angeles because I lived in Los Angeles around the time, and so I only see the things happening in Japan through internet or like Twitter. That like many of my friends, they're tweeting about like because most of them they don't know, because they just know that there was like earthquake and maybe a tsunami is coming. And in Tokyo, they were many of them, they stuck in the city because the public transportation didn't work around the time. So this is the image that people start to walk to go back their home. Like some of them probably took, I don't know, like 4 hours, and some of them like 7 hours to walk. Because most of the people living in Tokyo, they were living in suburbs. So some of them give up to going back their home on that day. So they stay at like a temporary shelter. The image in the bottom, you can see that the people sleeping together in some place, or some even the subway or something like that. So when I facing this March 11th disaster in Japan, I thought that I actually don't know how I could react to this this thing, because it's kind of like it's huge, and also each one of them has a different experience. Like, I mean, not only in the area where the tsunami hit, or Tokyo, but also like me personally also experiencing the disaster through distance, through internet. But when I back to Japan, I think the 6 months later, or maybe a little more, people start to, let's say, start to comparing, like start to compare about the like experiences, like or how much you, let's say, helped the people in the area where the tsunami hit, like how many days you went to as a volunteer or something like that. So like a small differences is important around the time. And I was a bit shocked, because some of them even told me that because I didn't experience the disaster, I didn't experience the earthquake. So some of my friends told me that you're not Japanese because you didn't experience the disaster moment in Japan or something like that. So they have this idea of like dividing in a way. So I record some news from Japan that after the disaster, like maybe the one day after or 2 days after, when the people are still walking in the street to going back to their home, people start to helping each other. So there was a certain sort of like a utopian moment occurred around the time. But after, I don't know, 6 months or 1 year later, people start to comparing their experiences or their differences with this small like a sort of like an individual concreteness. So I was thinking of how I can bridge, or how I can fill the gap between these small differences, because I was invited for the Japan Pavilion at the Venice around the time, and because the Venice is so far away from Japan, so this difference is kind of like a or gap between Japan and Venice is huge. So then I was thinking about, maybe I should not only looking at this individual concreteness, but instead of thinking about these like small differences, or maybe it's not the small, but those differences. So I come up the idea of this abstraction, because I thought that maybe the abstraction could somehow bridge the difference between the different people. So I'm just talking about the one example, which was I used the numbers as an abstract thing. I was invited to do a small performance event at the with the Viz. I proposed the idea of going to the one hotel room, which is very close to the Viz, and the one hotel room. I brought the participants there, which is like I think maybe 5-story high, or maybe 6. I don't remember the exact number, but the floor, the height of the floor is 16.7 meters high, which is actually the one of the record of the tsunami. And when we went there, I was talking about the different also number, not only 16.7 meters high, but also like 40 meters, I think 40.1 meter. And there was also different numbers. And I just told them that it's a water height. And I didn't tell them that it's a tsunami height. But because I'm a Japanese, and probably for them obvious, and also they start to discussing about what these numbers really means, and they were looking also outside, and then they some of them start to find out maybe this is tsunami height. So I used only numbers of the water height to, let's say, transform the distance area into sort of like abstract experiences of the disaster. So that's the kind of like idea I was thinking about around the time, how we can bridge the different experiences through the abstraction or through the numbers or something like that. This is one of the examples. I did different performance events around the time. So then the coronavirus, the COVID-19. Now I feel like it's kind of like a reverse than what I experience is what I experienced during the March 11th, the disaster in Japan, because because when you thinking about this COVID-19 or coronavirus, there is so many like new terms like a social distance or new normal or stay home, and all those terms used in the different countries like around the world, and it's become sort of like a sort of like an abstract idea, because we are really not sure like 2 meters or 1.50 meter is the distance we should we should keep or not, because the situation we are in is different, right? It's like if you are in like a closed small room, maybe 2 meters is not enough. But we keep following these numbers or abstract ideas and try to apply for like all over the world. But we as an individual, like we have like individual concrete experiences. And if we only looking at these like abstract ideas or concept, then we lose our maybe humanity, because even the states forced us to stay home, but still, let's say, it's strange. It's still, I feel strange that if your like a family member passed away, why we couldn't meet them, like because it's a process of like people like passed away, like how we dealing with the sadness if we didn't do any like anything, like any ceremony or something. So each one of us has like a different experiences, and also the individual experiences. So if we only follow this abstract concept or abstraction of the situation, then we just lose those moment of our life. So I think what I was thinking about the March 11th disaster in Japan, I was thinking about to try to bridge or try to go beyond this small difference of the individual concreteness. But now I feel totally reversed, because individual concreteness is much more important than the abstraction, like the term we know, the like a new normal, social distance or stay home, or other terms. So yeah, this is the kind of like a comparison between the two idea of abstraction and the individual concreteness. Then now I'm also, let's say, looking back one of the projects that your museum showing, the precarious task. But maybe we can start to maybe we can like jump in the conversation from now on, if you like.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we are showing this in the exhibition How to Survive, and we hope that people can come to see it soon. And I would be interested to know how you concretely work with people, because I understand this was a commissioned work also in terms of an exhibition in London. And could you perhaps just describe how you go about producing these pieces?
Okay. First, like you say, it's a commission work. I was invited by the ICA to do some new project, and Precarious Tasks is the one of the cities that I mentioned earlier for the water height. I try to somehow use this precarious task as the kind of like a foundation to think further on the what was happened for the March 11th disaster in Japan. But when I invited for the project in London, I was thinking about like how I could, let's say, think about like March 11th in London. Then when then I realized that the same year, the 2011, there was a London riot or England riot. Yeah, that's like a starting point. So like on only the like a small or even banal comparison to different things, but through the same year. So that's the kind of like a first idea. So then I researched about the background of the London riot, which was I think the continuation through the Black Lives Matter happening right now in around the world. Because the riot was not started as a riot. In the very beginning, it was the murder by the police. I think the Mark Dagan, right? The black guy was shot by the police, and then in the very beginning was I think the protest or demonstration march to the police station. Then after, I don't remember exact days, but a few days later, then it became a riot. And it's all happening around the suburbs of London. And most of the places are kind of like a area for like a low income area. So that's like the background of the incident.
I think what's really interesting in the film is that you follow these people really right close, and now we have a projected, like you also said, in life size. So you really walk with these people through their neighborhood and somehow you see all the different people there, and somehow you also project things, like of danger or of things that are nice, or you think about your own daily walk to work. So there are many aspects coming in just because you kind of use this means of the camera just walking directly behind or with a person.
Yes.
I found that really remarkable, and it works very well. Also, how did you pick the people? How did you choose them?
First, we, like me and the curator, we try to pick up the like a small organization or community centers in that area. One was at the Hackney, and the other one at Lewisham, and Tottenham, and like we just list up the many of those like places and organizations, and send them the invitation first. So then we get I think, I don't know how many people are interested in, maybe like 10 or something like that. And we try to meet them as much as possible. And then at the end, these 4 people, they had actually only 4 that can contribute to my project. And each one of them, and then I ask each one of them to recall their memory of the which routes they took when the riot was happened. So they follow the same routes to walk one place to the other during the riot. And some of them just to talk about it, like they didn't see really things happening, so they just try not to meet the people doing rioting, so they just took a detour to going back their home. So that's the reason why some of them took quite a long walk.
Yeah, and at the same time, you also have the feeling that they revive somehow this moment of being endangered or not endangered, and it's a little bit like you know, you do it with in psychotherapy. They are like this kind of therapy where you confront your fears, you know, in doing it again somehow. For me, it has also this aspect in, although they were not immediately concerned, but they could have, like everybody could have. So it has also this aspect of somehow doing it again, or bringing yourself again, perhaps in danger or not in danger. So I found that also interesting as a ritual or as a process. I found it really interesting. Sorry.
Sorry. Maybe I stop to share my screen then. Oh. I stop it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's only us, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Question I also had, I found it really interesting, and I read also your kind of diary that you started writing, and you know, this idea of abstraction versus concrete, or like everybody versus individual. I had a strange experience, like you had perhaps a little bit similar, because I was living in the United States in 2001 when 9/11 happened, but I got a job before and I left. So, but I had many friends that were in New York City at the time, and I had just left the summer. So I felt very guilty when I was looking at the screen at television. I felt very strange, and I always thought I could have been there. And I was really in tears because I was so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was not my family, but it was somehow, when you talk about it, I think it was probably much more harder for you, but perhaps a similar feeling of abstraction, you know, you see it through a screen and, you know, perhaps people you know are there and you don't know. And I think like there were millions of people who felt the same. But how a very abstract image can be a very emotional and very concrete thing. And then you, at the same time, you know, you're not part of it because you weren't there and you didn't suffer it and nobody died, you know, or so. So I found this reaction of in Japan when you came back and you are not one of them because you had not been there in person. Maybe that's a very Japanese thing, but I think it can also happen all over the world. That, or I have to remember, I think of World War II in Europe, you know, like where people were part of it or not part of it. Which side.
Yeah,
so
sure.
there's all this discussion. So, like, coming to a question is finally like, you know, what are the consequences for your work when you say now, before you had the idea of going, the abstract would be your medium to bring people together in a way and to bridge the difference. And now you have the contrary, that you have, you know, a very abstract talking about, you know, in terms of distances, 1.5 meter or whatever. But you feel like we need more the individual thing. So what does it mean in the consequence for your practice? Do you already know?
Actually, that was already, let's say, happening in a way, because I think you remember my earlier piece that I gathered like pianists or potters or poets to do a collective work together, like 5 pianists playing the one piano together, and I document it, which was, let's say, I didn't looking at these 5 pianists as an individual. I'm only looking at them as a profession, like professionals. So, but then when I did the project at the Münster, which was 8, it was 8, right? I sometimes forget about the exact number. Yeah, it's 8 participants to participate in my project, and for this time I try to focusing on the individuals, not only, let's say, because I didn't gather the people who has a certain profession. They were just they were resident from Münster. So I tried to even focusing on their life story. So through the process of interview, they revealing their individual concreteness or personal story of their life. So I think when I did the project in Münster, I maybe it's not enough, but still I touching the idea of reverse from the focusing on the abstraction to the focusing on the individual concreteness.
Yeah, I remember with Sculpture Project, there was this, there was 2017, and there were people cooking, for example, and how they brought their recipes and stories, how they would cook and what they would cook and who would like what. So that was also something they brought from their background as individuals from different cultures, also cultural backgrounds. Yeah, I'm born in Münster too. Do you know?
Okay. I didn't know.
Yeah. So my question is also I mean, now we are in this situation where we can't meet in person because you cannot come and I cannot come. So, and also the piece of Shusaku Arakawa couldn't come. Did you know his work before? Is he somehow famous in Japan?
He's very, very famous. Actually, I remember that I went to the Euro Park, which is I forgot the English, like a reverse destiny, the site of reverse destiny. Reversal destiny. I don't remember the exact but in Japanese it's we call it Yoro Tenmei Hantenchi, which shorter name is Euro Park. I went there long time ago when I was in the art school. Without knowing much about his work, but that was really great because there is no, let's say, a horizontal line or something. It's kind of a confusing of perception, and because you gave me this question before, so I actually Google a little bit about the Euro Park again. Then when I read the concept of the work, concept of the park itself, it's he tried to, let's say, change our perception through experience of the park itself. So in a way, of course, I'm not really, let's say, maybe I shouldn't say that I'm influenced by his his works or his practice as a whole, but still I remember the feeling of the walking or even not walking in, because it's difficult to walk in the park. So the experience of the park itself is still still in me now. So in that sense, I somehow carry the experience of his project.
Mm-hmm. I find it interesting that, you know, like Arakawa was really, I mean, he was like a generation of Second World War, and he experienced death and saw dead bodies as a child. And so his first works were like these caskets, like sculptures with lumps of gesso in it. And there were like caskets staying there. And then he was with this Neo-Dada group in Japan, I forgot the name. So, and people just called him the crazy artist, and they said he should better leave Japan because the Japanese society wasn't ready for it. So he left with the phone number of Marcel Duchamp and a recommendation of Marcel Duchamp for New York, and that's how he became a New Yorker. So it's a very interesting story because in the exhibition, like him and Gustav Metzger, you know, from total different contexts, but they somehow share the experience. And I think that this destruction they experienced made them want another society. And that's where I also see a little bit the parallel. I think it's totally different situations in history, but somehow I feel now we are like in a totally different crisis, but somehow we have to think about how we go on, or whether we can go on like we're doing. So, and I feel like artists like you are like looking for forms or ideas, like how to develop you know, like other ways of dealing with what we confront in society. So that was also, it was not only about being Japanese, but also about, you know, like somehow perhaps working in the same society, like after so many years, a different generation, and if there is still like a link, because in Western, you know, like in Germany, it's very strong till, you know, my parents were children when the war was over, but they still grew up in the Second World War. So I think there is also like a connection in Japan still with, you know, like Hiroshima, Nagasaki is a very strong heritage for you also. And now it's Fukushima, which is like it transformed society very strongly in Japan. Yeah.
Okay, but it was very nice talking to you. Thank you so much, Kōki, that this was possible.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was really great.
And yeah, we keep in touch, and hopefully we meet in person very soon.
Yes, hopefully. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Best to you and your family.
Thank you.